Alright, welcome there. This is a WASSCE Mathematics 2026, question number 2. It says, the expression x squared plus 10x plus 18 can be written as, in bracket, x plus p all raised to the power 2 plus q, where p and q are integers. Find the values of p and q. So we quickly do that. So the expression we have there, which is a quadratic expression, x squared plus 10x plus 18. I know a lot of students who try to factorize this or take the factorization route, but you don't need to waste time. That's not the route. That's not what they are looking for. They're not looking for the roots or factorizing it or solving. Okay, so they want us to make this, to express it in the form so that it will look like x plus a certain number p all raised to the power of 2 plus a certain number q. Now for us to do this has to do with making finding the number that we're going to add to this quadratic expression on the left hand side to make it a perfect square. Now, to recap, what is a perfect square? A perfect square is simply a number that can be expressed as a multiplication, or a number that can be expressed as a product of two identical numbers. For instance, 4 is a perfect square because it can be expressed as a product of two identical numbers. That's 2 times 2. Another example is 9. 9 is a perfect square. Another example, 16. So sometimes if you have something like 3x and someone asks you, what are you gonna do to 3x to make it a perfect square? Because 3x on its own is not a perfect square. It doesn't mean that we can't find square root of 3. We can find square root of 3. But it's not going to give us integers. It's going to have a decimal times another decimal. So that's not a perfect square. So perfect square is when you have an integer whole number multiplied with another identical whole number to give you that. So that's when it becomes a perfect square. So now this 3x here is not a perfect square. And someone will ask, so what are you going to do to it? What can you add or subtract from it or multiply with it to make it a perfect square? Now this 3x, if you add x to it, it's going to give you 4x. It's going to give you 4x. Okay, let me just neglect the x for now. Let me just neglect the x for now. Okay, so now this 3, now if you add 1 to it, it's going to give you 4. And 4 is a perfect square. So if you want to make 3 a perfect square, you have to add 1 to it. 3 plus 1. 1 is that number when you add it, make a perfect square. But mind, you have to also add 1 to the other side of the equation so that you don't change it. Why am I explaining this? Okay, let's come back here so that we see. So for us to express this quadratic equation as a perfect square, that they want us to express it as a perfect square where you multiply it by two identical expressions to give you what it is. So you find a half square of the coefficient of b, or the coefficient of x, sorry. The coefficient of x is normally labeled b. So the coefficient of x here is 10, not x squared. The coefficient of x is 10. So a half square of x, a half square of the coefficient of x is 10 over 2 all raised to the power of 2. So that will give us 10, 2 divided 10, 5. So we have the 5 square. So 5 square is a number that when you add it to both sides of the quadratic equation, is going to give you a perfect square. So let's do that. So that would be x squared plus 10x plus 18 equals to 0. So this will be x squared plus 10x. If you take 18 to the other side, equals to minus 18. X squared plus 10x. 5 square is the number that when you add it to this expression, it will give you a perfect square. So you add it to both sides of the equation. So plus 5 square will give you what? Minus 18. You also add the 5 square to that side as well. 5 square. It's not a must that you take 18 to this side, but I just took it for convenience to avoid confusion. So with this expression now, once you have a square here and a square here at the extremes, it can be written this way: x plus 5 all raised to power of 2. So the whole of this left hand side can be written this way. So this side will now be minus 18 plus 25. 5 squared is 25. So this is x plus 5 all square. 18 plus 25 minus 18 plus 25 is positive 7. So when 7 moves to the left hand side, it becomes x plus 5 all raised to the power of 2 minus 7. Now if you compare this, our last equals to 0. If you compare this, our last expression, with this, you can see from there that your p equals to 5 and your q equals to what? Minus 7. So that is how to solve that. So the correct option is option B. All right.